The rain had been falling since dawn, fine and persistent, like a curtain that refused to lift. Outside, the city moved under gray skies, umbrellas blooming and closing like weary flowers. But inside the old brick soup kitchen, warmth gathered in slow, invisible waves. The scent of broth and baked bread lingered in the air. A volunteer ladled soup into mismatched bowls. Another stacked loaves onto trays and near the far table. A girl with dark curls tied beneath a faded blue bandana hummed softly as she worked. Aura Halstead stood at the entrance for a long time before stepping inside. Her chauffeur had offered her an umbrella, but she'd waved him away, preferring to walk the last block alone. She liked to feel the weather. It reminded her that she was still a person, not just a headline. Her cane clicked lightly against the linoleum floor as she moved forward, her gray wool coat trailing the faint smell of expensive perfume and old grief. Though her name adorned the brass plaque by the entrance, Halstead Community Meals, founded 2003, no one recognized her. That anonymity suited her. For years she'd come in secret, watching the people her money helped feed, searching faces she could never quite explain why she needed to find. Today, she told herself, was just another visit. But the air felt different somehow, charged, as if the room itself was holding its breath. The humming girl looked up, meeting Aura's gaze for a fraction of a second before smiling. "Welcome," she said warmly, her voice soft but sure. "You here for a meal or volunteering today?" Aura hesitated, her hand tightening around the cane. "Volunteering," she replied, though she'd never lifted a ladle in her life. The word came out brittle, but the girl didn't seem to notice. "Great. We can always use more hands." She gestured to the back counter. "Aprons are in the drawer." "I'm Lena, by the way." Aura repeated the name quietly. Lena. It fluttered against her ribs like a bird trying to escape. "Nice to meet you, dear." She crossed the room, her joints protesting every step, and pulled out an apron. The fabric smelled faintly of soap and pepper. Through the steam rising from the soup pots, she watched Lena move, quick, light-footed, laughter spilling easily as she helped an elderly man steady his tray. It wasn't until the girl bent down to retrieve a dropped spoon that Aura noticed it. A glint of silver against brown skin, a pendant small and circular, engraved with a single letter, A, in delicate cursive. Aura's breath caught. Her hand froze midway to the ladle. The world around her narrowed, voices dulling to a low hum. That necklace, she knew it. Every curve of the engraving, every tiny imperfection in the metal. She'd given it to her daughter 35 years ago, on her 16th birthday. Her daughter, Mara. Aura's throat tightened. 100 old regrets stirring to life like ghosts. It couldn't be the same. The design wasn't common, but surely others existed. And yet, something deep inside her whispered that this was no coincidence. She watched as Lena brushed a curl from her cheek, unaware of the silent storm unraveling across the room. The pendant swung gently, catching the light again, so unmistakably familiar it felt like a wound reopening. "Mrs. Ma'am?" Lena's voice broke through Aura's daze. "You okay? You look a little pale," Aura forced a smile. "Just a bit tired, dear." "Don't mind me." Lena nodded, returning to the counter, and Aura exhaled shakily. She gripped the cane tighter, her heart pounding too fast for its age. Memory blurred with present. Mara laughing in the garden, silver necklace glinting in the sun. "Don't ever lose it, Mama. It's my lucky charm." Aura had lost much more than that. Pride had driven her daughter away. Pride in words that could never be unsaid. An hour later, the lunchtime rush began. People filed in, a mix of worn coats and grateful smiles. Aura ladled soup with trembling hands, spilling more than she served, until Lena came beside her. "You're new at this," Lena teased lightly, wiping a splash from Aura's sleeve. "It's okay. Everyone starts somewhere." The kindness in her tone cut deeper than any reprimand could. Aura studied her face, smooth skin, thoughtful eyes, a faint scar near her jaw. There was something familiar about her expression too, though she couldn't place it. "Do you come here often?" Aura asked. "Every week," Lena said. "My grandma used to come when things were rough. She passed a few years back, but I guess I kept coming for her. Said it's good to give back when you can." Aura's heart twisted. "She sounds like a good woman." She was. Lena smiled faintly, gaze distant. Said kindness was the only thing you never run out of if you keep giving it. For a moment, neither spoke. Only the quiet clatter of trays filled the air. Aura wanted to ask about the necklace, where she'd gotten it, who gave it to her, but the words tangled in her throat. It felt intrusive, absurd even, to bring it up. And yet the longer she stayed silent, the heavier the question grew. Finally, when most of the guests had gone, she found her courage. "That's a lovely necklace you're wearing," she said gently, eyes on the pendant. "Family heirloom?" Lena's hand moved instinctively to touch it. "Oh, this?" "Yeah, kind of. My mom said it belonged to her mother. She didn't know much about her, though. Just that she disappeared before Mom was born, so guess it's the only piece we have." Aura's stomach turned cold. "Your mother never met her own mother?" she asked carefully. "No," Lena said with a small shrug. "She died young, or that's what people told her. I don't really know. Mom didn't like talking about it." Aura's fingers went numb. Her pulse roared in her ears. "She died young." The same story Aura had told people when Mara never came home. But what if she hadn't died at all? What if— No, it couldn't be. It was impossible. And yet the universe had an odd way of circling back when you least expected it. "Do you have a photo of your mother?" Aura heard herself ask, voice barely steady. Lena tilted her head. "Yeah, I think so." She pulled a worn wallet from her apron pocket and opened it. Inside was a small, faded picture. 2 people standing outside an old apartment building. A woman holding a baby, her hair windblown but her smile radiant. Aura's vision blurred. Mara. Older, thinner, but undeniably her. Holding the child she must have raised in secret. Holding Lena. The room spun. Aura steadied herself on the counter, forcing her breath to even out. She wanted to speak, to explain, to cry. But the words felt trapped under years of silence. "Ma'am." Lena's hand brushed her arm. "You really don't look well." Aura blinked hard, swallowing her panic. "I'm fine, dear. Just memories." Lena's expression softened. "Sometimes memories hurt worse than anything else, huh?" Aura managed a shaky nod. "Yes, they do." When she finally left the soup kitchen that afternoon, the rain had stopped. The air smelled of wet pavement and blooming magnolias. Aura paused under the awning, looking back through the window. Lena was inside, laughing again as she stacked dishes. The silver necklace glimmered under the fluorescent lights, steady and sure. Aura touched her own throat, where her pearls used to rest. She'd worn them to every event, every fundraiser, every meaningless gala. They'd always felt heavy. For the first time in her life, she understood why. She climbed into her car without a word. The chauffeur closed the door behind her. As the city rolled past, Aura pressed a trembling hand against her chest and whispered to herself, "Mara, what did I do?" Somewhere between the soup kitchen and the endless gray streets, she began to cry. Quietly, the way old people cry when they realize time has both punished and forgiven them in the same breath. The morning after her visit to the soup kitchen, Aura Halstead awoke before dawn. For the first time in years, she didn't reach for her medication or her silk robe. Instead, she sat still at the edge of her bed, staring at the faint light leaking through the curtains. Sleep had been no refuge. Every time she closed her eyes, the same image returned: Lena's smile, the gleam of the necklace, the photograph of Mara holding a baby, the impossible. Relentless truth pressed down on her like a weight she could no longer ignore. She rose slowly and crossed to the writing desk by the window. The mahogany surface was bare, except for a silver-framed photo, her younger self with her husband Thomas at some forgotten gala. Both smiling, both pretending Aura picked up the frame and turned it over. Hidden behind it, she found another photograph, one she hadn't looked at in decades. Mara at 16, sunlight in her hair, a silver necklace catching the light. Aura's heart gave a single, painful thud. "Forgive me," she whispered into the stillness. By the time her driver arrived, she had already decided. The archives of the Halstead Foundation were housed in a sleek building downtown, all glass and steel. Aura hadn't stepped inside in years. Her board handled everything now. But today, She walked in with purpose. Her assistant, a nervous young man named Peter, hurried to greet her. "Mrs. Halstead! You didn't mention you'd be coming in today." "I need some old records," she said briskly. "Personnel and donation logs from the St. Mary's shelter. Around the late 1980s, Peter blinked. That's nearly 40 years ago, I'm aware." Aura gave a faint, dry smile. "Have them brought to my office. All of them." Within an hour, a stack of dusty folders lay before her. The paper smelled faintly of mildew and ink. Names, addresses, signatures, all ghosts of another life. Aura turned page after page, her pulse rising with each familiar name. Then she found it. Mara Halstead, signed in trembling pen under Resident Volunteer, 1988. Attached to the file was a handwritten note, left without notice. No forwarding address. Aura's throat closed. Her daughter had been right there, working at the shelter her own foundation funded, and she had never known. Later that afternoon, she made her way to St. Mary's shelter, now a crumbling building with flaking paint and broken windows. The city had moved on, but ghosts lingered here too. A woman in her 50s, Sister Joan, answered the door. Her face was lined but kind, eyes sharp with recognition. "Mrs. Halstead, I didn't expect— Well, this is an honor," Aura smiled faintly. "I'm not here for honors, sister. I'm looking for someone who used to work here." Mara Halstead. The nun's expression changed, a flicker of sorrow, then hesitation. "Mara, yes, I remember her. Sweet girl, smart, always had a baby with her." Aura's breath caught. "A baby?" "Yes, little one. She called her Lena, I think." Aura felt her knees weaken. "She had a daughter?" Sister Joan nodded slowly. "She did. Lived here for a few years. Then one day she left. Said she'd found a way to make a better life. Never came back." Aura closed her eyes. The ache that filled her chest was old and raw. "Do you know where she went?" "I wish I did." Sister Joan hesitated again, then added softly, "Mara never said much about her family, but once when she was very sick, she mentioned you. Said her mother wouldn't forgive her." The words struck like a blade. Aura steadied herself on the doorframe. She said, the nun continued, "That one day you'd forgive yourself too." Aura turned away, blinking back tears. "Thank you, sister." As she stepped outside, the afternoon sun broke through the clouds, flooding the cracked pavement with light. She stood there, trembling, the truth finally unspooling in her mind. Mara had survived. She'd had a daughter, and that daughter was Lena. That evening, back in her mansion, Aura sat before the fireplace. Letters spread out on the coffee table. Old letters all returned unopened. Every apology she had written after the fight that drove Mara away. "I told you I was right," she murmured to the silence. "But I was wrong every single time." Her reflection in the glass looked smaller than she remembered, fragile, almost frightened. She reached for her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in years. After 2 rings, a man answered. "Halstead residence?" "It's me, Michael," Aura said softly. Her nephew's voice was a comforting echo from her husband's side of the family. "I need a favor." "Of course, Aunt Aura, anything. I need someone found." "Her name is Lena Carter. She volunteers at the Halstead soup kitchen." "I believe she's family." There was a pause. "Family? You mean—" "I'll explain when we meet. Just find out everything you can, please." 2 days later, Michael arrived at her estate with a folder. His tone was gentle but curious. "You were right to call me." Aura's hands trembled as she took the file. Inside was a birth certificate. Lena Mara Carter, mother. Mara Carter, father. Unknown. Her eyes blurred over the name. Carter. Mara must have taken her father's surname after leaving. "She's been working at the soup kitchen for 5 years," Michael said. "Lives modestly. Never married, no criminal record, no scandals. She's a good person, Aunt Aura." Aura smiled faintly through her tears. "I know she is. Do you want me to arrange a meeting?" he asked. Aura shook her head. "No, not yet. She doesn't know who I am. I can't just appear and claim her." Michael hesitated. "You think she'll reject you?" Aura looked toward the rain-streaked window. "I know what it's like to grow up believing you were abandoned. I don't want to take that pain and make it worse." That night, Aura dreamed again. She saw Mara in their old house, her face streaked with tears, her hand clutching that silver necklace. You don't understand, Mama. I love him. You're a child, Mara. He'll ruin you. At least he sees me. You don't even try. The memory had never lost its edge. Aura had said terrible things that night. Words meant to wound, not protect. Mara had left, promising never to return. When Aura awoke, her cheeks were wet with tears. The ache in her chest was unbearable. It was time to stop running from the past. The next morning, she returned to the soup kitchen. The same warm hum greeted her. The chatter, the laughter, the clatter of spoons. Lena was there, hair tied back, that same necklace shining against her throat. When she saw Aura, her smile brightened. You came back! I was hoping you would, Aura smiled gently. I suppose I couldn't stay away, Lena laughed. Once you get a taste of hard work, it's addictive. They worked side by side, conversation flowing easily. Aura found herself asking questions she hadn't dared before. About Lena's childhood, her mother, her dreams. Mom was complicated, Lena said, stirring a pot of soup. She was strong, though. Worked herself to the bone to keep me fed. Never said much about her parents, except that they were rich and proud and didn't want her. Aura's heart cracked. She told you that? Lena nodded. Said it like a joke, but I think it hurt her. She never forgave them. I think she wanted to, though. Aura swallowed hard. Do you forgive her for not telling you more? Lena smiled faintly. I think so. Everyone does what they can with the pain they have. Aura turned away, hiding the tears that burned behind her eyes. After lunch, Lena slipped off her apron. I'm heading to the cemetery, she said. Mom's anniversary. Aura froze. Her grave. Where is it? St. Mary's Hill, Lena said. Up near the oak trees. It's quiet there. Aura hesitated. Would it be all right if I joined you? Lena blinked, surprised, then nodded slowly. Sure, I don't mind company. The cemetery was quiet, blanketed in autumn leaves. Lena stopped at a modest headstone, brushing the dirt from the carved letters. Mara Carter, 1971-2003, beloved mother. Forever loved. Aura's knees almost gave out. She knelt beside the grave, fingers trembling as she traced the name. I used to bring her wildflowers, Lena said softly. She loved the yellow ones best. Aura looked up at her, voice breaking. She was a good woman. The best, Lena whispered. Aura pressed her palm to the cold stone. I'm so sorry, Mara, she whispered under her breath. I should have come sooner. I should have forgiven you, Lena turned. What did you say? Aura blinked away tears. Just talking to her. Old mothers do that. Lena smiled sadly. I do it too. They stood in silence as the wind rustled the trees, carrying with it the faint scent of earth and rain. Aura knew she couldn't keep the truth hidden much longer. The lies had already stolen too many years. Tomorrow, she decided, she would tell Lena everything. But as they walked back to the car, Aura didn't notice the dark figure watching from the hill. A man clutching an old photograph, his eyes fixed on the silver necklace glinting at Lena's throat. The sky was a quiet gray the next morning, heavy with the kind of clouds that seemed to listen. Aura Halstead sat at her kitchen table, hands wrapped around a mug of tea gone cold. The events of yesterday, the grave, the necklace, the tremor in Lena's voice, replayed in her mind like a dream she couldn't wake from. She had spent most of the night walking the halls of her mansion, her footsteps echoing off marble floors and old memories. Every portrait, every polished surface seemed to reflect her past mistakes back at her. How do you tell someone you've wronged them before you even knew them? How do you ask for forgiveness from the one your silence hurt most? The clock ticked past 8. Aura set down the mug, straightened her coat, and made a decision she should have made long ago. Today, she would tell Lena everything. The soup kitchen was busier than usual. Full of chatter and the smell of warm bread, Aura stepped inside quietly, unnoticed at first. Lena stood by the counter, ladling soup into a man's bowl, laughing softly at something he said. The sight tugged at Aura's chest. Mara used to laugh that way, soft, unguarded, as if the world were still kind. When Lena spotted her, her face lit up. You came back again, she said, wiping her hands on her apron. Aura smiled faintly. Seems I've made a habit of it. They moved to a quieter corner near the coffee urns. Aura watched her for a long moment, the way she tucked a curl behind her ear, the necklace catching light like a small heartbeat. "Lena," she began gently, "would you have lunch with me?" "Somewhere quiet." "I need to talk to you." Lena tilted her head, curious. "Of course." "Everything okay?" Aura forced a small smile. "It will be." They went to a small cafe down the street, a cozy place with steamed windows and the scent of cinnamon drifting through the air. A waitress brought them tea and sandwiches. For a while, neither spoke. Lena broke the silence first. "You seem nervous," she said softly. Aura exhaled. "I suppose I am. What I'm about to tell you. It isn't easy." Lena leaned forward, her expression open, kind. "You can tell me anything." Aura's voice trembled. "Yesterday at the cemetery, you said your mother never talked much about her parents." Lena nodded slowly. "Yeah, I think she was hurt by them. She said they didn't want her because she got pregnant young." Aura's hands tightened around her cup. "That's not true. At least, not the way she thought." Lena frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" Aura drew a shaky breath. "Your mother's name wasn't Mara Carter. It was Mara Halstead. My daughter." The words hung between them, heavy and impossible. Lena blinked. "What?" "She was my only child," Aura said softly. "We fought when she was 17. I said terrible things I can never take back. She left that night and never came home. I looked for her, but she never wanted to be found." Lena's eyes widened, confusion and disbelief battling across her face. "That's not—" she began, then stopped. "Wait, you're saying you're my grandmother?" Aura nodded slowly, tears already sliding down her cheeks. "I didn't know. Not until I saw your necklace that first day. I gave that same one to Mara on her 16th birthday. When I saw it around your neck, Her voice broke. "I knew the universe was trying to tell me something." Lena sat frozen, her spoon untouched, her heartbeat loud in her ears. "You can't be sure. Maybe it's just similar." Aura reached into her bag and pulled out a small photograph, faded and creased, the edges soft from years of being hidden away. It showed a young girl with the same necklace, the same eyes, the same quiet smile Lena wore now. Lena's breath caught. "That's my mom," Aura nodded. "She looks so much like you." For a long moment, there was only silence, 2 generations of hurt staring at one another across a table, unsure what to do with the truth sitting between them. Then Lena whispered, "Why didn't you find her sooner?" Aura closed her eyes. "I tried, but I was proud, stubborn. When she left, I told myself she'd come back. And when she didn't, I buried my guilt under charity and work. I thought if I helped enough people, maybe I could make up for the one person I'd failed." Tears slipped down Lena's cheeks. "She used to say she didn't hate you." "She said she hated that she still missed you." Aura's breath hitched. "She missed me?" Lena nodded. "Every birthday, she'd light a candle and say, 'Maybe she'll forgive me one day.'" Aura reached across the table, trembling. "It's not her who needs forgiving, Lena, it's me." For a moment, Lena didn't move. Then slowly, she placed her hand over Aura's. "Maybe forgiveness isn't something we give once. Maybe it's something we keep choosing." Aura's tears came freely now, decades of silence, regret, and love breaking open all at once. They left the cafe and walked together down the quiet street. The air smelled of rain. Lena led the way, speaking softly about her mother, how she'd taught her to cook, to pray, to never leave someone hungry. Aura listened, drinking in every word like a starving soul. She could almost hear Mara's laughter in Lena's voice, the same warmth she'd once taken for granted. At the end of the street, a mural covered an old brick wall, bright colors, faces of people from the neighborhood. Lena smiled at it. "Mom painted part of this, you know." Aura's eyes widened. "She did?" "Yeah. The little girl with the yellow flowers. That was me." Aura traced the painted outline with her fingers, her throat tight. "She left pieces of herself everywhere," she murmured. Lena looked at her. "You left pieces of her too." Aura turned, eyes glistening. "You have no idea how much I missed her." "How much I've missed you even before I knew you existed." Lena smiled faintly. "Maybe you can make new memories now." "Start over," Aura hesitated. "If you'd let me." "I think Mom would have wanted that." They stood in silence, the mural glowing in the fading light. For the first time in years, Aura felt something she thought she'd lost forever. Peace. That evening, back at the mansion, Aura opened a locked chest she hadn't touched in decades. Inside were letters, photographs, and a tiny baby blanket. She placed them carefully in a box, tied it with a soft blue ribbon, and wrote a note. For Lena. For everything I never said to your mother. The next day, she arrived at the soup kitchen again. Lena was there wiping down tables. Aura handed her the box. These are for you. They belong to Mara. Lena opened it slowly. Her fingers trembled over the old photographs. Her mother as a child, smiling at the beach, sitting on a piano bench beside a younger Aura. She looks happy, Lena whispered. She was, Aura said softly. Until I let fear take her joy away. I won't do the same with you. Lena looked up, eyes shimmering. You're not. You're here now. Aura smiled through her tears. You remind me so much of her. Lena stepped forward then, hesitating only a second before wrapping her arms around her grandmother. Aura stiffened, then melted into the embrace. It was a quiet hug, no dramatic music, no crowd to witness it, but it carried the weight of everything unsaid between them. When they finally pulled apart, Lena smiled. You know, we could use an extra pair of hands here. Ever served soup before? Aura laughed, the sound rusty but genuine. I've funded a dozen kitchens, but never picked up a ladle myself. Then today's a good day to start, Lena said. So Aura tied an apron around her waist, and together they served bowls of soup to strangers who, unknowingly, were witnessing a family being stitched back together, one act of kindness at a time. That night, when Aura returned home, the house no longer felt as cold. She walked through each room slowly, pausing at Mara's portrait. For the first time, she didn't feel pain, only gratitude. Thank you for sending her to me, she whispered. Outside, the wind rustled the garden leaves. And for just a heartbeat, Aura thought she heard a familiar laugh, Mara's laugh, soft and free, carried away into the stars. The afternoon light slanted through the soup kitchen windows, spilling over the tables where Aura and Lena had been sorting donations. The hush that followed lunch service always felt like a breath between storms. Aura liked these quiet minutes, the scent of broth still in the air, Lena's humming as she stacked bowls. The door creaked. Footsteps. A tall man stepped inside, rain glistening on his coat. He wasn't one of the regulars. His presence drew glances from the volunteers, something about the careful way he removed his hat, the politeness that felt deliberate, rehearsed. Can I help you? Lena asked, wiping her hands on her apron. The man's gaze lingered on her necklace before lifting to her face. You must be Lena Carter. Lena nodded, cautious. That's right. I've been looking for you, he said, voice low, weighted with purpose. And for Mrs. Halstead. Aura straightened slowly. I'm Aura Halstead, he bowed slightly. Samuel Graves, ma'am. I used to work with your husband's firm many years ago. Trusts, estates, that sort of thing. I believe I'm here to fulfill a promise made long ago. Aura exchanged a glance with Lena. A promise? Samuel reached into his briefcase and drew out a thick envelope, edges yellowed with age, sealed in wax the color of dried blood. On the front, in careful handwriting, were the words, "The world seemed to stop." The hum of the refrigerator, the chatter from the hallway, all of it vanished beneath the sound of Aura's heartbeat. Where did you get that? She whispered. Samuel's eyes softened. From Mara Halstead. Lena's breath caught. My mom? He nodded. She gave this to me 22 years ago. Said I was to deliver it only when I could hand it to both of you together. Until today, I thought that moment would never come. Aura sank into a chair, trembling. How did you find us now? I didn't, Samuel said quietly. Fate did. An old colleague mentioned Mrs. Halstead's charitable work, and I saw a photo in the paper, a young woman beside her, wearing this necklace. The same one Mara wore the day she signed her last papers with me. Lena touched the pendant at her throat as if to steady herself. Samuel set the envelope on the table between them. She called it her bridge, you know. Said one day it would help her mother and her daughter find each other. Aura's eyes filled with tears. She knew, she hoped, Samuel corrected gently. She believed forgiveness would come when you both were ready. For a long moment, none of them spoke. The envelope lay between them like a living thing, fragile, pulsing with decades of silence. Lena's hands shook. "If we open it, we can't unread it." Aura nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "Then let's make sure we're ready." Samuel stepped back, giving them space. "I'll wait outside," he said. "This letter was never mine to witness." As the door closed behind him, the room seemed to shrink around Aura and Lena. The ticking clock sounded impossibly loud. Lena brushed her thumb over the wax seal. "She actually wrote to both of us." Aura's breath trembled. She always wanted to speak. I just never listened. They looked at each other, two faces joined by blood and loss, finally poised on the edge of truth. Lena broke the silence. "Ready?" Aura reached out, covering her granddaughter's hand. "Together," she said. The wax cracked. The envelope opened, and the past began to speak. The paper was soft with age, its edges curled as if it had breathed too long in the dark. Lena unfolded it carefully, and a faint scent of lavender drifted out. Mara's scent, the memory of a mother who hummed lullabies behind closed doors. Aura leaned forward. Her fingers hovered, afraid to touch. "Read it," she whispered. Lena began. "To my mother, Aura Halstead, and to my little girl. Wherever life keeps her safe, I never learned how to speak without breaking something. Words were sharp in our house. They cut even when they tried to comfort. I left not because I stopped loving, but because I didn't know how to love you both without fear. Mother, you taught me to be strong, but I mistook strength for silence. When I found out I was pregnant, I thought you would see shame where there was only life. I ran before you could look at me that way. For years, I lived within the sound of your charity's bells. You never saw me. I was the girl serving soup, sweeping floors, collecting stories from the people you helped. I wanted to tell you that you helped me too. To my daughter. I watched you once from across the street when you were little. You had your grandmother's steady eyes. I was too afraid to cross the road. Forgive me for that cowardice. It was not because I didn't want you. It was because I wanted you to grow without my ruin near you. If this letter ever finds its way to you both, it means kindness has done what I could not. Promise me this, keep that kindness alive. Feed it, shelter it, hand it to every stranger who walks through your doors. Love, even when it feels like weakness. Speak, even when words shake. And remember me, not for the leaving, but for the trying. Lena's voice cracked on the final line. She lowered the letter slowly, eyes wet, breath trembling. Aura's tears fell soundlessly. Her hands clutched the edge of the table, knuckles white. She was here, she murmured. All those years, she was right here. Lena nodded. She saw you, Grandma. She never stopped. Aura covered her face, a sob breaking through. I thought I'd buried every chance to tell her I was sorry. She already forgave you, Lena said softly. She forgave both of us before we even met. They sat together, silence stretching like prayer. The letter lay between them, no longer an artifact of regret, but a bridge of paper and ink. After a long time, Aura reached out. Her voice steadied. We'll keep this here, in the kitchen. People should see it, know that love can find its way back. Lena smiled through her tears. The bridge, just like she called the necklace. Aura traced the loop of her granddaughter's pendant. Her bridge, she said, our promise. When Samuel Graves returned, the two women were standing side by side beneath the window light, the letter framed in a simple wooden frame. He paused at the doorway, watching them. Did you find what you needed? He asked quietly. Aura turned, her face streaked with tears but peaceful. More than I expected. Tell her, if somehow you can, that she came home. The old lawyer bowed his head. I think she already knows. He left them then, and the door clicked shut. Outside, the hill's shadow lengthened across the street, but inside the soup kitchen, the light stayed warm. Winter softened into early spring before either of them realized how much time had passed. The soup kitchen no longer felt like a place of service alone. It had become a heartbeat. Every morning, Aura arrived before dawn, setting the kettles to boil, her cane tapping the rhythm of old hymns across the tiles. Lena followed with laughter and music, pulling in volunteers from the nearby college, repainting the walls a brighter cream. Between them, on the far wall above the serving window, hung a wooden frame. Inside it, Mara's letter rested behind glass. Beneath it, in careful handwriting, a small plaque read, "Love, even when it feels like weakness. Speak even when words shake." People stopped to read it every day. Some cried quietly, some smiled, some simply nodded and took their bowl of soup with new gentleness. The letter had become a kind of prayer that didn't need to be spoken aloud. Aura often caught herself looking up at it while she ladled stew. At first the sight hurt, like looking into sunlight after too many years underground. But now the pain had thinned into something tender. She could almost hear Mara's voice between the clatter of dishes. "You did your best. Mama, keep going." One evening, as twilight spread lilac through the windows, Lena came to her with a folder of papers. "I've been thinking," she said, "about expanding. There's an empty building next door. Mr. Patel says we could rent it cheap. We could open a small community library. Somewhere people can sit, read, breathe." Aura smiled, the fine lines around her mouth deepening. "A library in a soup kitchen? Why not? Mom said we should feed more than hunger." The words lingered like incense. Aura touched the folder and nodded. "Do it, in her name." The weeks that followed became a kind of resurrection. They cleaned the dust from the old building, painted shelves the color of wheat, stacked donated books in crooked rows. Children from the neighborhood came after school. Old men brought chessboards. Mothers left with recipes written on the backs of donation receipts. At the grand opening, a small brass plaque was mounted by the door. When the ribbon was cut, the crowd applauded, and for a moment Aura thought she saw, in the corner of her eye, a figure standing by the window, a young woman with dark hair, smiling softly. But when she turned, there was only sunlight spilling through the glass. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Aura and Lena sat together at one of the tables. The soup pots were empty, the air rich with the smell of baked bread. Aura's hands wrapped around a mug of tea. "I used to believe forgiveness was something you earned," she said. "But maybe it's something you grow, like these walls, little by little, with other people's hands helping." Lena rested her head on her grandmother's shoulder. "You taught me that. You and Mom both." Outside, the city hummed, the steady thrum of buses and voices carrying through the thin glass. Inside, the lights cast long golden bridges across the floor, touching the framed letter, the soup pots, the shelves of books, a quiet map of everything they had rebuilt. Aura reached for Lena's hand. "Promise me," she said softly, "that when I'm gone, you'll keep this place alive." "I promise," Lena whispered. "And when people ask why it's called the bridge, I'll tell them about 3 women who finally learned how to cross it." Aura smiled, eyes shining. "Then I can rest." They sat in silence, listening to the clock tick, the world outside still turning. Somewhere in that silence, between breath and memory, Aura imagined Mara's laughter floating through the rafters, warm and full, as if the walls themselves were exhaling peace. And when Lena rose to switch off the lights, the glow from the letter's frame lingered a little longer, bathing the room in gold. In a quiet corner of the city, 2 women rebuilt what time had broken. Aura Halstead, the grandmother who once lived behind locked doors. Lena, the girl who wore her mother's necklace like a heartbeat. Together, they turned an old soup kitchen into something more, a place where forgiveness was served beside every bowl of soup. Cut to close-up of a framed letter on the wall, Mara's handwriting visible through the glass. On the wall, a single letter hung in a frame. It read, "Love, even when it feels like weakness. Speak, even when words shake." People came hungry, but left with something different, a piece of hope, a spark of warmth, a reason to believe that broken hearts can heal. Camera pans over Aura smiling, serving food. Children laughing, Lena painting a sign that reads, "The Bridge." They named the place The Bridge because it didn't just feed the body, it fed the soul. And sometimes, when the evening light touched that letter just right, Aura swore she saw her daughter's reflection smiling back. Forgiveness had found its way home, not through wealth, not through time, but through love that refused to fade. The bridge where love still serves.